Welcome. Welcome to Sapphire Ridge News. Give give a few seconds for people to pile in, and then we'll get started on our subject of the day. Our, our subject of the day is the English Prime Minister Kier Starmer. He's a real piece of work. There are reports of grooming gangs, which are our gangs, in every major city in the United Kingdom. And it is his incompetent belief that there are only six. I have a video clip of a young lady who's a black member of parliament, and she talks about the fact that these gangs are in every major city in the UK, and she wants a not election, national investigation. And believe it or not, Kier Starmer objects. He objects. So we're going to get into our video and let y'all see what. First, I will play a video clip.
Trudeau stepped down as Prime Minister. What is your reaction?
Finally.
Trying to get to the right video clip.
You've probably already seen that Trump said today at a press conference.
That's not the right one. I'm looking for the one.
Yikes.
Let's start.
Your daughter was being abused by gangs and the police were doing nothing, but they did come for you. What happened when you tried to save her from an abuse den?
I was arrested outside, put in police car, taken away. We lived up next estate, so as we were passing, the stop car told me that I would be arrested, to go in house and don't go back. I was that mad and furious, I went back to the flat. Within a few minutes, police were back, but this time in a van, and it were only a few minutes. So there must have been some on the street waiting, because they must have known I was going back.
So they were watching this flat where your daughter was being abused. They weren't going in to save her, but they did go in to arrest you.
Yeah,
twice.
Yeah, they arrested me second time, took me down at the police station, kept me in there. About an hour and a half later, they come into, because they didn't put me in a cell, they put me in a room. They took me out of the room, took me out through the police station, into the front bit with public, go to report crimes. Took me outside and said, right, go home, because if you go back to that flat, we're going to arrest you for stalking. And I don't know if you know or not, but there's serious new stalking laws coming, and we'll arrest you for stalking the occupants of that house.
That's disturbing. The guy goes to rescue his daughter, and he's the one arrested and says he'll be charged with stalking. And
would accept that if we...
No, that's not the one.
I was on your show last Monday, same time practically. I came off, there was a fantastic response from the public. I was really,
This is a young girl that was a victim.
And outreach that I received from those that either didn't know what had been going on in Telford for decades. Up to 1,000 girls had been reported to have been abused by grooming gangs since the 1980s, or those that had no idea that it could potentially still be going on, and the scale of police, council and social services failings. I went back home, I went back to Telford, and the next day around lunchtime, 2 police officers banged on my door demanding that I speak to them about my interview.
Really? So the police who have done nothing for the entire 3rd millennium to date suddenly were roused to activity by you going on television.
Yeah, they told me that they had gone round to all of the addresses they had on file for me. They had gone to my previous home addresses, the different accommodations that I'd stayed at, looking for me, and eventually they located me. They hunted me down, they tracked me, banged on my door. Not too different to when they're knocking on the door of a perpetrator, of a potential criminal. I was on FaceTime to my friend at the time, who said to me afterwards, "I genuinely thought you were going to get arrested from the way that they were talking to you." They told me that, quote unquote, when you go on GB News and talk about grooming gangs in Telford, it's our duty to follow up with you.
That's not actually true, is it?
No.
So the police are, among other things, lying to you.
It's funny, I said to them at the time, it was funny that they did absolutely nothing to bring my accusers to justice, but when I went on national TV, my abusers to justice, but when I went on national TV and talked about the industrial scale of their failings and their inaction in bringing to justice the perpetrators of vile rape, grooming, sexual assault and child sex crimes in Telford, that they are suddenly spurred into action to come and knock on my door and intimidate me into silence.
It's pretty pathetic, these big butch coppers being so insecure that you going on TV and criticising them can drive them into action that they otherwise haven't taken for decades. Do you know who actually ordered up this, I guess raid is the word for it?
I have absolutely no idea. I know that it was two police officers from the CSE team that knocked on my door. They said they had been working for the force for a year and 6 months respectively, and they were, quote unquote, trying to make a difference. I don't know what difference they were making by going after a victim rather than the perpetrators, those that have been systematically raping, abusing, grooming and passing girls round like
well
Now, not all Pakistanis believe in these grooming gangs. I have a video clip from one young man who talks about how this upsets him.
Pakistani grooming gangs in the UK. Being a Pakistani, hearing about this makes me absolutely sick. There is an issue. I'm glad it's being brought to light. I'm glad that the people of the UK are standing up, demanding the government to be more stricter on deterrent for these types of crimes. But in the same breath, some of the news that I've been seeing recently, mainly just directed at Pakistani grooming gangs, they're actual grape gangs, that's what they are. The attention is away from some core issues, which is middle-aged white men are more likely to do something like this. In Scotland, there was a massive grape gang operation. How do we fix the grooming gang issue? Simple. When something like this happens in Saudi Arabia, he will be executed. Because this problem is so deeply enrooted, how many times do you come onto TikTok and you see another predator being caught? The laws should be changed. For anybody convicted without a shadow of doubt should receive the capital punishment. And that will deter these disgusting men.
Now, I have a video clip from a young black lady who's a member of parliament who wants this investigated, and she names off the cities that is going on in, and Starmer stands up and objects after she's done. This is just disturbing.
And I would say very respectfully to the Prime Minister, it's not about you, it is about the victims. Be a leader, not a lawyer. We know that people were scared to tell the truth because they thought they would be called racist. If we want to stop this from ever happening again, we cannot be afraid. The Labour Party has adopted the APPG definition of Islamophobia. That same APPG report said talking about sex groomers was an example of Islamophobia. This is exactly why people are scared to tell the truth. And the lack of clarity means that innocent British Muslims are smeared by association. That is not fair, and only a national inquiry can solve this. So will the Prime Minister look again at the Labour Party's adoption of the definition of Islamophobia, its chilling effect, and rule out introducing it in government?
There are some that do think they are. It will take time. All of the institutions will have to give evidence. That will take time. This will delay things till 2031 also. But Mr. Speaker, we already know what the major flaws are. And my argument is we should get on with that action. And that's why we're bringing forward the bill this afternoon.
Yeah, she's speaking the truth. And I think it's just disgusting that he says that the bill that he supports would put off the investigation till 2031. That's 7 years. What is he doing? Is he planning to turn over the UK to Muslim rule? Is that why he's putting it off till 2031? That's something to think about, isn't it? And I have a couple more video clips. Um,
Chris Hope, GB News, and I must ask also about the grooming gang scandal. Critics will say it's not a far-right bandwagon issue, Prime Minister. The ICSA report looked at just 6 towns where grooming gangs were operating. Rochdale got 1 mention in 400 pages. We have found at GB News court reports showing gangs operating in 50 towns across the country. Are you certain, as Prime Minister, it's not going on today? Why don't you order a national public inquiry to join the dots between 50 towns, not 6, barely mentioned in the J report? Are you afraid it might expose failings as your role as a DPP? And that's why Elon Musk says, were you complicit in the rape of Britain? You have not. To go after the far right on this does not go to the heart.
Those that are spreading lies.
Chris Hope, GB News, and I must ask also about the grooming gang scandal. Critics will say it's not a far-right bandwagon issue, Prime Minister.
Sorry about
the ICSA
that.
report looked at just 6 towns where grooming gangs were operating. Rochdale got 1 mention in 400 pages. We have found at GB News court reports showing gangs operating in 50 towns across the country. Are you certain, as Prime Minister, it's not going on today? Why don't you order a national public inquiry to join the dots between 50 towns, not 6, barely mentioned in the J report? Are you afraid it might expose failings as your role as a DPP? And that's why Elon Musk says, were you complicit in the rape of Britain? You have not. To go after the far right on this does not go to the heart of the problem.
No. Well, Chris, look, on my record, I think you were actually covering crime when I was DPP. You were quizzing me at the time for the Telegraph as the crime correspondent, I think for the entire 5 years, if I'm right. And quite rightly, too. I'm not complaining in the slightest. But you looked at my record for 5 years with me as I was doing the job, facing your questions. You've got access to all of the material. So, in a sense, you can look at it. I've set out what I did. I actually changed the system because I could see some of the things that were going wrong. I wasn't prepared. Unlike some Tory politicians, I'm not tweeting about it or talking about it. I got on with changing it. In relation to the serious point you do make, because this is the victims here suffered terrible abuse. unthinkable, unspeakable, genuinely sickening abuse, and then they weren't listened to. That has to be taken seriously. We have to do everything we possibly can to make sure that never happens again. That's why I made the changes I did within criminal justice. Among the reasons I came into politics was because I felt that it couldn't all be done within the criminal justice sphere alone. It had to be done more broadly. On the question of this sort of call for an ever-increasing number of reviews, there have been a lot of reviews, including localised reviews. Including into Oldham, for example. The Mayor of Manchester did his review, and the J report was intended to look at the different types of exploitation that went on. It was a comprehensive review. What Professor J said was really important there, and because I completely agree, which is this doesn't need more consultation. It doesn't need more research. It just needs action. There have been many, many reviews, this constant asking for a further review. No stone should be left unturned. But frankly, it's time for action. Get on with it. Why didn't the last government implement the J requirements? Got to answer that question. For 10 years, we've had reviews and reports. Did they act? No. They're now tweeting and talking about what they think should have been done. I've got some pretty basic questions to answer in relation to that, in my view. Thank you very much.
To me, that's pretty disgraceful that he would block a national investigation. And I think, Crazy Mom's life, that you could write your member of parliament and simply say that you want the grooming gangs investigated, and if your member of parliament doesn't support it, that you will vote for their opponent. You know, no threatening or nothing like that. Just simply say you'll vote for their opponent. But I have, I showed that video clip of the dad who went to rescue his daughter from one of these gangs, and he was the one arrested and told he would be charged with stalking if he went back. That's just crazy. And, that's why I say, is Starmer planning to turn the UK over to the Muslims? These are legitimate questions, but I don't know that you can ask them, Crazy Mom's life, because I don't want to see you get arrested for asking a question. These are crazy things that are going on over there. It's just very disturbing. And I did have a video, maybe I still have it, of Starmer basically threatening Trump, saying that if he didn't completely disassociate himself from Elon Musk, that he would cut all ties with the U.S. This is scary stuff.
Those that are spreading lies and misinformation as far and as wide as possible. They're not interested in victims. They're interested in themselves. Those who are cheerleading Tommy Robinson, not interested in justice. They're supporting a man who went to prison for nearly collapsing a grooming case, a gang grooming case. But when the poison of the far right leads to serious threats to Jess Phillips and others, then in my book, a line has been crossed. I enjoy the cut and thrust of politics, the robust debate that we must have. But that's got to be based on facts and truth, not on lies.
So let's once again remind ourselves of the Prime Minister's case as to why we don't need an inquiry into, well, we used to call it grooming gangs. I think now we all call it rape gangs, or frankly, rape gangs. But let's hear what Starmer had to say yesterday. This is the government justification for not holding an inquiry.
Not once in 8 years did she stand here and say what she's just said. Not once in 8 years. They didn't act on the recommendations. They want a national inquiry. We had a national inquiry, the J inquiry, the J report. 20 recommendations. Not a single one implemented. Not a single one implemented.
Well, he is right about Kemi Badenoch, who not once in her 8 years in the House of Commons, despite for 2 years being Women's Minister, did she ever mention this subject. But his justification appears to be the J inquiry, and I'll come to that in just a moment. But let's have a listen to Sarah Owens. She is the Labour Member of Parliament for Luton North, but perhaps more significantly, the chair of the Women's and Equalities Committee. Let's listen to what she had to say today in the House of Commons.
What about the group of 70,000 men in Germany that had a group that shared tips on how to rape, how to drug, how to get away with sexual assault, how to wreak revenge on women and girls? Just in Germany, 70,000 men sharing tips on that. Can we guarantee that there isn't something similar happening closer to home? Probably not.
Well, if, Sarah Owens, you're so concerned about what's happening in Germany, and earlier on in that speech, you talked about sexual assault and rape in the Congo, and you asked the question, could it be happening here? Why on earth did you go along with the Labour whip yesterday and vote against there being an inquiry? And I think the accusation of hypocrisy that hangs around much of what has been said by Labour MPs out of the last few days holds very, very strong. I think it is significant that Andy Burnham today has broken ranks and called for a limited national inquiry. And that's what we're calling for. The J report, Prime Minister, was a shotgun. It was talking about abuse of children at all different levels. What we're asking for is a rifle shot that focuses on these grooming gangs. And yes, there's no getting away from it. There is a big emphasis on particularly elements of the Pakistani community within this. That's what we want. We don't want it to take 7 years. We want it to be over in a year. But we want the victims to be able to speak, because they're the ones that were ignored. They're the ones that weren't believed by social services, by the police. They need a stage on which they can tell us the truth about what happened. And we need to know how widespread this problem was. I thought it was half a dozen northern towns. Charlie Peters, our investigative reporter, says he now has evidence of at least 50 towns in Britain where this has happened. So you tell me, folks at home, are Labour out of touch?
I like Nigel. He just says it how it is. But this is disturbing. This is going on, and the victims are being harassed, basically being told to shut up, and the parents, if they show up to rescue their child, they're the ones arrested. This is just beyond crazy. This is beyond crazy. It's very disturbing. And Crazy Mom, I pray for you and your kids. I will pray for them, because the government over there needs to wake up. I think they need to get rid of Starmer, but I don't see that happening. But like Nigel said, there needs to be an investigation into the Pakistani community and the grooming gangs, because otherwise, where does it end? You know, this is scary. You know, I live here in the U.S. and if I have two teenage granddaughters, if someone was doing that to my teenage granddaughters, you better believe I would be there in a heartbeat. But I would take my 45 with me. That's something that you guys over there don't have. You don't have the right to bear arms. And it's, hey, Julianne, we're talking about the grooming gangs over in the UK. Crazy Mom's Life lives in the UK, and I think we should pray for her. She has young daughters, and she homeschools, which is good, but the Prime Minister over there won't investigate. He won't investigate. I played a videotape of him objecting to a national investigation. I'll replay it just so we know where we're at.
To the victims who are calling for a national inquiry, he is making this all about a bill this afternoon. Later today, he will tell Labour MPs, including in Telford, Rochdale, Bristol, Derby, Aylesbury, Oldham, Bradford, Peterborough, Coventry, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Ramsgate, to tell all of these people to vote against a national inquiry into the gangs which have systematically gang raped children in their constituencies.
Not once in 8 years did she stand here and say what she's just said. Not once in 8 years. They didn't act on the recommendations. They want a national inquiry. We had a national inquiry, the J inquiry, the J report. 20 recommendations. Not a single one implemented. Not a single one implemented.
They don't care, huh? Yep, you pay taxes for nothing. It's heartbreaking because, you know, Elon Musk has brought attention to this through X, and Starmer called it disinformation and told Trump if he didn't disassociate himself from Elon Musk, that Britain would cut ties with the U.S. Right. They blame other people for their mistakes. Yeah. They need to get rid of him. But I don't think that the Labor Party has the stomach to get rid of him. Because it seems to me, like I told Crazy Mom's Life, that that it seems that Starmer is getting ready to hand over the UK for Muslim rule, because I played video clips earlier of a young girl who's a victim who went on Great Britain News and shared her story. And when she got home, the police came and basically told her to shut up. Yeah, I don't think they can get rid of him, Crazy Mom's Life. And I think the Muslims are the ones that want him, right? Yeah. I saw Candace Owens yesterday on YouTube, and yeah, I did a live last week on free speech in the UK, and I said free speech in the UK is dead. And that's a sad thing, isn't it? It's a sad thing when you can't voice your opinion on anything. And if Starmer goes through with just cutting ties with the U.S., then where would y'all be, Crazy Mom's Life? Yeah. Newsom, I think that Newsom has ended his political career because in you know in most states where they have forest, they have what's called forest management, where they go around and they pick up uh, they go around and pick up the good, Crazy Mom's Life. I'm glad, where they go around and pick up the brush and clear off the leaves so that the fuel for the fire is not there. Um, I think the country of Norway, was it Norway? One of the European countries over by Norway uh, met with President Trump and told him that the way to keep the forest from burning so bad and is to pick up all the brush, pick up all the leaves, that they have special vacuum trucks that go through and they just suck it all up. That way, the fuel is not there for the fire. Crazy Mom's Life. Julianne lives in Southern California, and parts of Southern California are literally burning to the ground right now. Yeah, I know that I heard this morning that Newsom wants to meet with Trump and make a quote arrangement. Yeah, I'm surprised it's not more. because Pacific Palisades burnt to the ground. Um, Altadena burnt to the ground. Um, I believe Malibu was next. Um, thank you, Crazy Mom's Life. Um, and there's zero containment. And when fast, yeah, I saw James Wood yesterday, and he was in tears. His home up in the mountains is gone. He said a lot of other stars around him, their homes are gone. Um, yeah, yeah. The last report that I saw yesterday said that she cut the fire department funding by almost $40 million. She sent all of their excess fire equipment to Ukraine. Then she went on vacation to somewhere in Africa. Um, I am not sure what started the fires, Crazy Mom. Yeah, he's a piece of work. Um, what I heard was that what started the fire, that there's a homeless camp up in the mountains, and that one of them was doing drugs and dropped his pipe or whatever, and it set some leaves on fire, and the Santa Ana winds blew it, and now we have 1,000 homes burnt to ground, and now there's been reports that illegals are going around setting other fires so that they can go back and loot the house. Yeah, she was in Ghana, and this reporter asked her if she had anything to say to the people that lost their homes, and she stood there silent, just staring ahead. And I thought, you just ended your political career, because that will be on every news station, or at least it should, because she should have said something. She should have said how sorry she was that, the people lost their homes. Something. Yeah, right. Just, just we have crazy things going on all over. Yeah, and there was no water in the fire hydrants. 78 fire hydrants had no water. That is just crazy. You can understand maybe one, maybe two, but 78? Yeah. I do hope that Congress will investigate this fire. Hey, Chadiggy, we are talking about the fires in California and about the grooming gangs in the UK. Um, this crazy mom's life lives in the UK. We need to pray for her, Cha. She has young kids. Right. Trump said that he was going to demand that the state stop diverting water to the ocean and let it come down the middle of the state like it used to through the forest. And, if the water was coming down through the forest, the ground wouldn't be dry, which he makes a lot of sense there. I have some video clips I can play of the fire.
Hi. Just be okay. You're gonna be okay. Hi. You're gonna be okay. Oh shit. Want me to the park? Yeah, don't worry about that, dude. Look at that. Holy shit.
See? They're inside the house and it's literally on fire all the way around them. I have another one.
Yikes. 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 Update, I'm watching our house burn down on the security cameras.
I think this was the one.
Park along this street, yeah? And then, Dave, if you can, just go ahead of us and try to set up a signal.
Right here. This is where it's gotta be. This is, oh my God. What? I've never, look at this. Beyond comprehension. Oh. That's very sad.
Yeah. There have been reports of people trying to evacuate and their dog gets away from them and runs into the fire and they have to watch their pet get burned alive. I just can't imagine. That's so sad. I'm a dog lover. I have a dog. I just can't imagine having to watch him get unalived like that. Yeah, I live in Montana. It's currently 35 degrees and we're getting freezing rain, which is supposed to switch to snow overnight. We're expected to get 5 or 6 inches of snow. Yeah, humans died too. I'm not saying that humans didn't die. Yeah, I don't think that Karen Bass should be able to walk the streets. You know, how do you cut your fire department budget by $40 million the week before the fire breaks out? Which means if she cut their budget by $40 million, they could not possibly check fire hydrants like they're supposed to, and maintain everything. Yeah, and the fire is 0% contained. 0%. Um, Professor Nez, I like him. He lives in California, and he did a live yesterday in which he said that Karen Bass fired the police chief or the fire chief because she told the truth. She told how badly the cuts affected her department and that she blamed the mayor for the city burning to the ground. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the controversy with the Hawaii fires and Oprah. And something that happened yesterday, Julianne, an illegal alien was walking down the street with a torch in his hand. He had been in the bushes and set a fire, and the neighbors caught him and put the fire out and called the cops. He still had the torch in his hand, and the cops incompetently said they saw no reason to charge him because there was no evidence that he set the fire. Yeah, the crazy thing, Crazy Mom's Life, is that the mayor of Los Angeles cut the fire department budget by $40 million. She went to Ghana in Africa on vacation. He was in Los Angeles, and um, some neighbors caught this guy in the brush with a torch, setting it on fire, and they corralled him and called the cops. And the cops came, and the cops later said that there was no proof that he had set the fire when he was holding a torch. Yeah. And this guy with the torch was setting the fires so that his associates could go in and loot. This was a different. Um, oh, was that in Hawaii? Where was the 100 or so illegals on scooters? Right. The yeah. Um, Professor Nez showed this yesterday about the illegal with the torch that the neighbors corralled him and called the cops, turned him over to the cops. Mind you, he's holding the friggin' torch, and the cops said that there was no proof that he set the fires when he's holding the friggin' torch. What kind of proof do they need? The dude's holding the torch that set the fires. I made you a moderator, Chop. Wow, Brentwood. There's going to be a lot of stars in Brentwood and rich people. Holy cow. You're welcome, Chop. That makes three moderators that I have. I have Laugh Always and Brooklyn and you. But this is just disturbing. Both the situation in the UK and the situation in California. You know, I have a unique connection to California, Julianne. Um, look up Ruby Vanderhav. Ruby Vanderhav was my great aunt. She was the first female bridge tender in the state of California. And she used to travel all over California encouraging women to speak up and let their voice be heard. And if she's seen what Gavin Newsom was doing right now, She would be furious. Okay, let me see if I can get a video clip.
The next court date is approaching with our neighbor. It's January 15th, where we go back for the
standing in my driveway getting ready to evacuate. We've got a lot of planes going over, dropping water, but
you can actually see right there it says the 405 405 south there, 405 north. That's going to be the 405 freeway, although we can't physically see it, but that's where it runs. So you can see that these flames are still in the mountains just to the west of the 405. So we're looking from the Hollywood Hills. We're over the Franklin Reservoir, to be exact. Over the Franklin Reservoir.
insurance in California is horrifying.
As wildfires continue to rage in California, one estimate says the insured losses are already at least $20 billion. In Altadena, Dustin and Aaron Rubin say they were dropped from another insurance company last year. It was only last month they finally found a company that would give them.
Since Tuesday, the house is totally engulfed in flame. Have a secondary home behind it. It's gone. The car, it's gone. The trailer, it's gone. Everything is gone. And I didn't take it serious, so I didn't grab anything because I'm like, okay.
Satellite images show us just how devastating the LA fires have been.
Yeah.
This image from Planet Labs from January the 7th clearly shows the very start of the Palisades fire. But by January the 8th, before and after images from Maxar begin to show us the damage to property close up. This image is from the Altadena neighborhood where the Eaton fire took hold. Smoke began to obscure most of LA, but shortwave infrared imagery can pick out fires raging on the ground. These are before and after images again from the Altadena area. Every orange glow is an active fire. And in these images from Planet Labs, everything that appears red is healthy vegetation. And you can see by January the 8th, the brown areas are everything that has burned. On January the 9th, 6 separate wildfires were still burning in Los Angeles County.
Here, I've got
Satellite images show us.
I've got a satellite image of the current devastation of the fires. Here.
Satellite images show us just how devastating the LA fires have been. This image from Planet Labs from January the 7th clearly shows the very start of the Palisades fire. But by January the 8th, before and after images from Maxar begin to show us the damage to property close up. This image is from the Altadena neighborhood where the Eaton fire took hold. Smoke began to obscure most of LA, but shortwave infrared imagery can pick out fires raging on the ground. These are before and after images again from the Altadena area. Every orange glow is an active fire. And in these images from Planet Labs, everything that appears red is healthy vegetation, and you can see by January the 8th, the brown areas are everything that has burned. On January the 9th, 6 separate wildfires were still burning in Los Angeles County.
Isn't that disturbing? Hey, Laugh, my friend. I added Chadigi as Ahmad. I added Chadigi and I added Brooklyn. Brooklyn's not here today. She was here yesterday. I appreciate my mods. I appreciate y'all very much. Oh, yeah, Brooklyn is a he. I keep forgetting. Yeah, I'm used to the name Brooklyn being a girl, and he told me he is a man, and I just keep forgetting. But that's my three mods now. You and Chadigi and Brooklyn. But very disturbing the things that are going on in the world. Last we started talking about the grooming gangs in the UK. Um, Crazy Mom's life. She lives in the UK. We should pray for her. She has little kids. She um, homeschools, so there's not the pressure that are at school. But still, we need to pray for her. And then we got talking about the wildfires in Southern California. Just crazy. Now, Brentwood is in the path of the fire. Brentwood. I hope so too. Just lots of crazy things going on right now. And I can't see how, yeah, so there is a lot to talk about these days. I What I do for my channel, Crazy Mom's Life, is I sit and watch the news on YouTube, and then if I see something that would be interesting to talk about, I go to TikTok and I download a few video clips from TikTok, and then we discuss it the next day. But there's just so much to talk about these days. I started out my my channel by covering the YSL trial, and that was a real disaster. Um, the one young man was found not guilty of all counts, and he's still sitting in jail because they pulled some crazy-ish shit. And the day that he was to go and get his bond, they come up with a warrant against him. How could there be a warrant against him? He's been in jail for 2.5 years. Yeah, I started watching The Lead, and then I got over to Catnot Williams, and I basically kind of shifted away from the lead attorney. I don't like the way he treats his chat. I don't like the way he blocks out his chat, and then only members can talk because not enough people like the video. To me, that's not right. You know, I welcome everyone's conversation. Yeah, I'm sad that he has cancer because I think that he's a smart individual and he has had a lot of good insights on legal cases. But the way he treats his chat, the way he blocks out his chat is what I don't like. Yeah, he's the highest earning YouTuber. Yeah, he showed right before Christmas, he showed that he made $336,000 in 6 months. Yeah, follow me on TikTok if y'all are on TikTok. And I'm on X too. One of the mods can put up my link to X. So much to talk about. Well, I'm going to get out of here. This has been real fun. Ashton Forbes. Yeah, I will look into that. I will definitely look into that. Yes. Nice talking to you, Crazy Mom's Life. You're welcome back here anytime. CPE and UAPs and UVOs. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Let me look into that. And I will definitely get something up. Well, I will see y'all tomorrow, same time, 3 o'clock Eastern. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is 2 o'clock Eastern. Okay, we can do that. I'll definitely let you come up and talk. Crazy Mom's Life. I will see y'all tomorrow. Take care. Love y'all. Bye.